City News on TV Rotorua is proudly brought to you by Trade Central.
Good evening, Rotorua. Tonight on City News. The Health and Safety Reform Bill is the biggest change in 20 years. A New Zealand Chief Executive Officer talks about the airline's plans for working with Lakes Council. And police urge motorists to be patient and take care on the roads as thousands are in town for crankworks. The new health and safety law that has come into Parliament is the biggest change in 20 years and is a response to the current health and safety regime that isn't good enough. New Zealand has twice as bad a health and safety record as Australia and many other countries in the OECD. Statistically, on average, one worker a week was being killed at work.
And the goal is to try and get our fatalities and our workplace injuries down to what is a more acceptable level.
Air New Zealand have announced their plans for Rotorua after last year making the decision to cease direct flights to Sydney. Air New Zealand Chief Executive Chris Luxon spoke yesterday about the airline's decision to cut services around the Bay of Plenty and has said that they intend to work as a partnership with Council to deliver services that align with the growth of Rotorua.
I've met with Steve and Jeff and got a very good overview of what's happening in the city. Met with a bunch of other guys too around sort of what they're trying to do in terms of taking tourism and economic development forward here. And it's been really important. These sessions are really critical for me because I end up going around and meeting lots of people from lots of different regional cities across New Zealand. And it's always really interesting as to what's the degree of join up that's actually happening amongst all the stakeholders. And there's no doubt you guys are in great shape. The actual proposition of the city and this is really, really clear. Steve laid that out in very black and white terms, and it was very clear about what we're doing and what we're not doing here in Rotorua, which was fantastic. And it was reinforced by all the other subsequent conversations that I've had. And so it's which is really good, because that alignment is so important as we actually think about how we can help you and help achieve your objectives as well.
During the question and answer section, Mr Luxon says that it's the community's responsibility to tell them what we need.
You guys as a community need to tell us what you want to do to build demand, because it's your responsibility. I'm not all your problems and I'm not all your solutions. And so I'm part of a partnership of stakeholders that want to work together to advance Rotorua. Don't get me wrong, but I'm not close enough to know what you want to do.
And a reminder to take extra care on the roads this weekend as huge numbers are expected in town for crankworks. Motorists can expect delays around Skyline this weekend. Police have advised to avoid the area where possible. Weekend traffic is expected to be heaviest between 12 p.m. and 5 p.m. each day. Police are urging motorists to be patient and vigilant when dealing with delays and other drivers.
Show some patience to other road users. To be aware that we could have more camper vans and more rental cars on the road, to watch our speed and our following distance, to make sure that we're not overtaking unsafely. In sport tonight, the World Cricket Cup might be the most thrilling event this weekend for Kiwis around the world, but in local cricket, it's the two heavyweights in Bay-wide cricket since the dawn of the new millennium, Element IMF Cadets and Caris Mount Maunganui, who are set to battle it out at the 2015 Williams Cup final at the Bay Oval at Blake Park, Mount Maunganui tomorrow. Cadets took the direct route to the Williams Cup final stanza last Saturday when they beat Rotorua Central in the major semi-final, while Mount Maunganui had to back up twice last weekend, defeating Tapuki and Central on consecutive days. Both sides will bring players with red-hot form in the qualifying rounds to the battle at Bay Oval, which starts tomorrow at 12 p.m. To your weather update now. Tonight we're fine with light winds and an overnight low of 13. We'll have a full forecast of the weekend's weather coming up after City News, thanks to Met Service. You can access all the weather information you need at metservice.com. For program listings or to watch City News again, visit our website tvrotorua.co.nz and remember to check out our updates on our TV Rotorua Facebook page. Coming up after the break, we have more local sports news with Bay of Plenty Rugby, which kicks off tomorrow,
And we have a two-part interview with Rotorua Lakes Councillor Mike McVicker, who talks about the Te Arawa Partnership proposal and other council issues.
Standing here next to me is a very familiar face, Trevor Albert, whom has been for the last 8 years president of the Central Rugby Union. Trevor, thank you so very much for coming and chatting with us today.
It's a pleasure to come here. Anything for rugby.
Anything for rugby. Okay, actually I'm going to keep you to that, because what are you leaning on right now?
A rugby scrum that belongs to the Rotorua Sports Club.
And how did this rugby scrum become to be? I heard someone that you know personally built it.
Well, I was part of the group that put together and built this scrum. These Rotorua boys needed something to push on, so we got one that was really heavy. Originally, it came from the Rotorua High School All Boys Club, and we rebuilt it to what it is today.
Good old Kiwi ingenuity, eh? We love that. We love that here in Rotorua. So let's talk about the season. It's starting shortly, isn't it?
It's starting on the 28th, I think, or thereabouts. A local round where we have got the 3 premier sides from Central Bay and the 3 First Division sides from Central Bay playing in a local competition. By choice, Rotorua, Eastern Pirates and Murupara are not participating.
They're not participating, but let's talk positive. We have a new member, a new team in that Premier Division, don't we? Who are they?
Oh, Waikiki.
Waikiki.
They've done really well and played their way last season up into that division. And congratulations to them. Hopefully they've really pushed it on this year and dominate where they used to be.
Let's talk about that Premier, because you said, they worked really hard. How hard do you have to work to be at that level?
Well, it takes a period of, if you start rebuilding, it takes a period of about 3 to 4 years to do it. And Waikiki have gone through the rebuilding period. They're up there now. They're still using 1 or 2 older members, but you still have to have these old members to congregate together to keep these young guys in line.
That's very much it. So let's talk about the different divisions. Who's in these different divisions?
In the Premier Division is Waka, who was in the finals of the Bay Wide last season, Rotorua, who finished up 6th in the Bay Wide last season, and Waikiki, who have come up this year, all participating in the Bay Wide Premiers for 2015. Kakura, St Michael's and Nongataha will be in the First Division competing for Central Bay in First Division comp throughout the Bay Wide.
So just for our locals who may not keep up with rugby, so that they have a better understanding of how this works, Central is one, and then we've got others that we compete against, don't we?
Yes, there's Central Bay is here, Rotorua. Western Bay is Tauranga, and Eastern Bay is Whakatane and down to as far as Whanapunui.
Yeah, and so they all compete against each other to be the best team?
Yes, they after this local round is completed, 3 from Central, which we've already mentioned, 3 from Eastern Bay, who we don't know who they're going to be at this stage, and 6 from Western Bay, which will make up a competition of 12 premier sides.
So you've been in the rugby field, been in the rugby arena now for quite a few years. So let's have some predictions from you. Who do you think's going to take out the season?
Hopefully, Rotorua is going to be way up there.
Is that bias?
I have to. No bias there. It's, I'm hoping that I've been hoping for the last 10 years. We've been up and been in 5 finals and 2 semi-finals, but we've still never won the Bay Wide.
Still never won it. So it's their turn then. That's what you're saying. It's their turn.
Hopefully 2015 is going to be ready this year.
Well, there you have it, Rotorua and Rotoisi. If you're out there listening or watching us right now, it's your year, 2015. Thank you so very much for your time, Trevor.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you. You know, it's really important to get a balanced view of any issues or any proposals that are currently taking place within our beautiful city. With me, I'm joined by Mike McVicker, whom has had various roles in our community. Past president of the Chamber of Commerce here in Rotorua, also a past Rotary member, and now a Rotorua Lakes councillor. Mike, let's get to it. Let's talk about some of the things at the moment that have been hitting the headlines and some of the things that maybe need to be demystified. Te Arawa proposal at the moment is out for consultation. What do you think about this consultation process?
Okay, the consultation process is, according to the local government requirements, a very strict and controlled process where all the aspects, different aspects relating to the issue should be covered and promoted adequately. I am very disappointed with what the council has achieved to date in the way that they have presented a very biased perspective in the eyes of a lot of people. I went to a meeting at council on Monday morning with about 60-70 people, and it was really rather embarrassing to see the process whereby staff are in a position where they have to defend the option 2, which is what council is clearly promoting in our community, which I disagree with, and likewise with the Rotorua Pro-Democracy Society agrees strongly with the fact that there is a huge amount of emphasis on option 2 and none of the others.
Okay, so you've read the proposal, obviously, you've been through it, you've been through it with a fine-tooth comb, but isn't this the process that you wanted to happen in the first place, that there was to be a review, if you like?
Correct. Hey, no argument about that one. We all agreed prior to the elections in 2013 that we needed to improve relationships with Maori across the board. That's accepted. We've never debated that. But what is being proposed under this Te Arawa proposal stretches the limits and the boundaries of the legislation. For example, the appointment of 2 Maori to the 2 committees doesn't strictly comply with the legislation, which states that when you require an expert opinion, you can obtain it, for example, a lawyer or an accountant on the audit committee. Nowhere does it state that you can appoint people to committees with voting rights. And it's the voting rights that does anger a lot of people in our city.
Yeah, I understand now. Now, legislation itself is written a long time ago with the views of those who were there a long time ago. Does legislation need to be updated?
No, I think the legislation is pretty clear cut, and there's different interpretations, and we see it all the time. So no, I don't think the legislation needs to change. I just think that maybe tightened, because what we're seeing here is slipping it under the table virtually, and that's what's angered a lot of people in our community. It's getting to the stage where it's dividing our community, unfortunately. And no, we just need to cross our T's and dot our I's and understand what the legislation states, and get a clear understanding of what council is promoting, because they're not the same.
Absolutely. Legislation obviously is designed to be in the goodwill of all involved. And so is it currently in the goodwill at this point in time?
It's certainly. We are at least involving the community, and we really would like to think that many people from both Maori and the pro-democracy side of the fence will make submissions to council. and if they wish to, come along and speak to them.
Absolutely, and that is exactly what's taking place right now, so
Agreed.
that's good.
Yes.
That's a very good thing. Let's talk about pro-democracy. You've said it more than once during our interview, and it's only been maybe a minute into it, but let's talk about the group at the moment. How big is the group?
The group has currently over 200 members. We are targeting 500 members. We've just had a flyer drop to all residential properties in our area, in our district. And we are certainly promoting people to not only join up but also to make a donation, because we wish to try and, for example, get radio advertising out in the near future. The council is spending a fortune. It really annoys me, the fact that they're spending our ratepayers' funds in this instance, and we're having to go out cap in hand and get funds. Just this morning I hit up a businessman in town and he will make a donation, yes, but it's rather ironical, the fact that we're scratching to raise funds, to pay for the flyers, to pay for the radio advertising, to pay for legal opinions, and the council's spending our very same money.
Okay, let's get off that subject now, because what I was trying to get to is the Pukeroa Orwhata hotel that's going to be put up very, very shortly, but we'll get to that right after the break. So stay right there, Rotorua community. We'll be back with part 2 with Mike. Kia ora and welcome back for part 2 with Mike McVick. And Mike, so before we left to the break, we were talking about the new hotel that's going to be going up right where Te Whare Aroha, well, is still now,
yes,
but
yes.
Sure, it's going to move on to a lovely new establishment. We all know that. So let's talk about that from your perspective for a minute.
Hey, as a ratepayer in Rotorua, as a council in Rotorua, we support it 100%. I support it 100%. We would love to see that side of the lakefront developed. We have been talking at council for many, many years about lakefront developments, and I understand that we've had to wait until the treaty issue has been resolved, which I understand has been. So, hey, the sooner the better. I would love to see a hotel developed just over the way there, yes.
Let's talk about benefits for our community.
Exactly, and if in due course the government allows casinos to be built elsewhere around the country, because there's a moratorium as we know on at the moment, I can't think of anything better to attract more tourists to our city, and that's what we're all about, let's face it. So one day it'll be down the track, I suggest, but sooner the better.
Let's talk about the moratorium.
That's a central government issue, and I would like to think that they will consider our position. I think Todd McClay would be pushing for it, although I don't know his personal view, but he knows what tourism is all about in New Zealand and in Rotorua. The Prime Minister likewise. And I think if you visit a boutique casino like the one in Cairns, for example, not big, but tidy, clean, and generates income. And the other side of the coin, as we talk about, is the fact that groups in our city benefit from a certain amount of that spend. You with me?
Mm-hmm.
Sporting clubs and all the rest of it.
That's right, because they can apply for funds, can't
yes,
they? Yeah.
Correct, yes. Mm-hmm. So there's a spin-off for our community, albeit there's another side of the fence.
Okay, let's talk about the other side of the fence then for a second. We know that with any pro comes a con. And unfortunately, there are those in the community who would look to gambling as a form of recreation, which may not be healthy for their families.
I understand that, and I'm sure that procedures could be implemented at such a casino to control that expenditure. Just look around our city at the moment and you see some of the, I used the words dingy poke bars a few years back, and I got my hand slapped from an operator, so I won't refer to it as a dingy.
Oh, well, they don't say it then.
But if you look around our city today, we have many poke bars that aren't particularly benefiting our community, I don't believe. I'd rather have one casino than the 100 or so poke bars we have around our city. Not that there's 100, but...
Now, there's a very clear difference between one of the smaller poke bars and then one of the larger facilities like Lakes, Sky City in Auckland, they're not necessarily about making money, because I know that they do give back and I know it is a business, but when we talk about giving money, we're talking about jobs and we're talking about actual funds going back into the community.
Correct.
So is it that by having a larger establishment here, there will be more benefits in respects to those two?
Without doubt.
Okay.
And that's what it's all about, more employment for our youth and there is no doubt a hotel, casino perhaps one day. Yes, definitely, and I compliment Pukeroa Whare Trust for going down that track, and because they know that the sooner the better we get it up and running, the sooner we can employ and add value to our community.
Very good. Okay, let's just talk quickly before we go about all the new things that are happening in our city at the moment. What are you pleased with? What are you excited about? Let's end on a positive note.
I have always, and I will always compliment our Mayor, Steve Chadwick. She has done a marvellous job in getting the community behind the council. I have a few different views on that social side, and I do think that council at times loses focus of its core focus, which should be infrastructure. But however, she has done a marvellous job, and I applaud her for what she has achieved in a relatively short time. There's one issue that Steve and I don't agree on.
Yeah, and we all like that. Yeah, we all like that. Yeah.
But no, there's a lot of things happening. You just look at the development around our city.
Crankworks
coming.
Yeah,
exactly.
right,
Good point. Yeah.
Crankworks coming to our city. More
our tourism industry is certainly on the rise. Just yesterday at a meeting, we were given figures to the effect that there's been about a 5%, 6% increase overall in our tourist numbers to our city. So we're on the rise. We're on a positive.
Yeah. So we're on a positive direction, but there are just some things that need ironing out. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity.
No worries.
That was Lakes Councillor Mike McVicker speaking with Melanie Groves. Thanks for joining us tonight. From all the team here at City News, Ko Maria.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.
City News on TV Rotorua was proudly brought to you by Trade Central.